No game is perfect. Every game has at least one flaw stopping it being impeccable. I mean, look at every Assassin's Creed title. Birds everywhere. Very impeccable. So with that excellent award-winning intro out of the way, here is the worst thing about each Assassin's Creed game. I think it's also worth adding that there will be spoilers for the mainline games and that this is just my opinion. I'll be releasing a video about the best things about each AC game very soon, so subscribe with notifications turned on so you don't miss that. Okay, let's start off with Valhalla, the Viking simulator. Surprisingly, the fact that you don't even play as an assassin is not my biggest gripe with this game. It's actually its extreme length, bloat, and pacing of the main narrative. Underneath all the fluff and feathers, birds again, is a decent story that is just weighed down by several arcs that are a complete waste of time. This game is way too long and was designed to keep you playing for as long as possible so there was more chance you would buy cosmetics from the store. At one point, your brother is kidnapped and Eivor's just like, nah, everything's fine, and goes off to recruit more regions to her cause. I think I had to do 2 very long arcs before I could go rescue my brother. No wonder he was angry. And these arcs are just so pointless to the overall plot. Like, why are we kidnapping the king's wife so they can get a divorce? It's all so stupid. So many arcs just felt like side content pushed into the main quest log. Gloucestershire is another one that springs to mind. Gameplay wise, the mythical parts of the game were also terrible, but there was at least an attempt to weave them into the fabric of the main narrative. See what I did there? So while Valhalla made you do side content as main missions, Odyssey made you do side content to keep up with the aggressive leveling of the enemies and the main quests. Every 2 or 3 main quests, you would have to spend a substantial amount of time grinding out side quests to get levels, in an absolutely inconsequential leveling system, as overleveling is pointless as well, as all enemies just scale to your level, leaving you feeling the same the entire way through the game. This is by far the worst part of Odyssey, as it disrupts the flow of the main story and just feels awful. As with Valhalla, the game was designed in this way for a very specific money-driven reason. To sell time savers such as XP boosts, which would see you having to do far less side content. And because I refuse to give Ubisoft encouragement, I do not buy these every time I play this game and have to suffer from their game design philosophy, which is rinse us for as much money as they can. Just a bunch of dollar signs floating around the higher ups' heads, or I guess Euro signs, as Ubisoft is a French company. Now this game is pretty good as far as Ubisoft's games go after the early 2010s. In fact, I love Origins in almost every way. While this game does also force you into side content for leveling, it's nowhere near as bad as Odyssey, and the side content feels more tethered to the main quest. Nope, the worst part of Origins for me is the resource gathering to improve your weapons and equipment. You have to hunt down an exorbitant amount of resources to upgrade the hidden blade, armor, and your arrows and quiver. Now, I'm not a huge fan of resource gathering in most games, but in Origins, you have to first locate and then kill hippos, lions, crocodiles, etc. to acquire these items. Not only is this process boring and tedious, but I'm not like a huge fan of killing animals in real life or in the game, so yeah. That aside, I still think it is a mundane process of constantly looking around the map and tracking down these materials to increase a number at the bottom of my upgrade screen, which doesn't ever feel very impactful. I think a solution may be to give these less upgrades so that each one feels very impactful, instead of 10 upgrades that feel like being slapped with a feather. How many times in this video do you reckon I can work in bird themes? Syndicate has many flaws. The story is forgettable, the villain is cartoonishly evil, and Jacob's just the worst.
Oh, what's this, Greenie? Assassin Christmas.
But none of that compares to the awful combat that plagues the gameplay of this title. It looks bizarre and very quick moving. You're doing swings that would kill a man instantly, except that they don't. You're wailing away on these guys for what seems like hours, whittling down a health bar. It just never feels right or satisfying. Its only redeeming factor is the combat finishes, which look pretty damn sweet if you're able to pull them off, and some of the weapons are very unique to this setting. But honestly, it's just so unrealistic and dull that I just don't feel like I'm really doing anything at all. It's so mechanically uninteresting as you spam the same button to attack over and over, waiting for a parry opportunity and occasionally dodging a gunshot. There's no heavy attacks or anything remotely player driven in this combat system. Just a few reactions before you return to spamming the attack button over and over again until you scratch the enemies enough for them to fall over. Enjoying the video? Why not hit down below and assassinate that like button just like Ezio did to Vieri. Ruthlessly. Thanks, it really helps the video and the channel be seen by more people. Unity is certainly a missed opportunity for greatness, with a beautiful realistic world, a perfect setting, player agency focused gameplay, and just an array of amazing gameplay features to take advantage of. However, Ubisoft let the eggs fall out of the nest once again, as the story of Unity is the worst part in my opinion. It had all the ingredients for a perfect omelette. It could have been very interesting to see such an in-control and established Brotherhood, but instead we saw very little of the inner workings of the Brotherhood, and it was just all made so unexciting. Instead of an intriguing look into the tenets of the Creed or that of the Templars, we got told what to do by one man, Mirabeau, who was as bland as you could be. We went out on mostly solo missions and never got to work with any other assassins or do anything remotely intriguing that involved the Brotherhood in any way. The writers also did not take full advantage of the setting, as I think it could have been delved into much deeper. I think the elements of a great story were all there, but the execution of it just never really hit the mark. Ah, Rogue, you strange little chicken. Released on the same day as Unity and on older gen consoles, this game never really had a chance to shine. It also had a minuscule budget and an even smaller development time, and it really shows. The worst part, however, has to be that there was very little innovation in Rogue. The gameplay felt the same as Black Flag, it looked the same, and reused a lot of the same assets as well. There are a few little tweaks here and there, like adding the air rifle, but other than that, it just felt like Black Flag DLC, and it basically was, with its short campaign and low innovation. Now, this is a tough one for me, because most people would say it's all the tailing missions that are a huge part of the main quest in this game. But I'm an individual with a broken brain, and for some dumb reason, I don't think like everyone else. Warm up those fingers and thumbs, guys, because it's angry comment time. Right, so, it's ships and ship combat. Yep, I said it. I hate the ship combat, and I don't find sailing around in any of the games fun. I don't know why, it's just something that's never really clicked for me. To me, it doesn't feel very assassin-like to be on a big ship shooting cannonballs at people. I mean, stowing away on a ship and making our way to the captain or something to assassinate them, yeah, that feels a lot like AC. There are so many forced ship sections in the game that it really holds it down for me. If it was all optional, then I would probably say the worst part is the tailing missions. I know everyone loves this game, including the ships, but it's just not for me, and in my opinion, is the worst part about Black Flag. So Assassin's Creed 3's complete 180, where it tricks you into playing as Haytham for the first few hours before realizing he's a Templar, is one of the best reveals in gaming history, and I absolutely loved it. The problem comes that you've been playing for a decent amount of time before you get your hands on the real protagonist, Connor. Now, I love the Haytham segment of the game. However, after playing a tutorial as Haytham, you also have to play through a lengthy tutorial as Connor. He starts off as a child, and you follow him as he grows up, learning all the different mechanics of the game, through small missions such as playing hide and seek with your friends. The issue is, you feel like you're playing a tutorial for 5 to 6 hours before Connor spreads his wings and is an actual assassin. So it may have been better to have all the tutorial parts for your play as Haytham, and then once you get to Connor you don't need to learn everything, but I don't know how that would work because they have very different mechanics. Playing 2 tutorials just isn't a great thing and really feels like the worst part of AC3. The ending to Ezio's story is one of the finest stories in media and one of my favorite games of all time. So it was very hard to pick the worst part of this game, but it had to be done. Many would say it's its lack of innovation, but since Brotherhood was so damn great, it didn't really matter in this case, as it was just more of what already worked well. No, the worst part has to be these damn tower defense style missions that just didn't fit well at all into the gameplay. Now, I understand and appreciate the devs trying to add to the mechanics of Revelations, but this just wasn't it. It doesn't feel rewarding or that there's really any strategy to it. It feels out of place in the game for many reasons, but mostly, this isn't how assassins operate. I don't know what else to say other than it wasn't fun and I'm not a huge fan of it at all. Small blemish on an otherwise exemplary game. This was probably the hardest game in the series to find something that could possibly be labeled as the worst part. But I'd have to say the ending with Cesare and the battle with him all seem a bit rushed and poorly executed. The game just abruptly stops and skips forward several years with you finding Cesare in Vienna. I can't help but think that they had more planned, but ran out of time in development. So that feels kind of off for a start, and instead of doing some kind of sneaky assassin things, we run into battle and immediately try to kill Cesare before we get hit by a cannon. The gameplay sequence that follows is pretty good, but what follows is a very anticlimactic boss battle with Cesare, who is just a beefed up regular enemy. He is slightly different in that we have to remove his armor piece by piece and slowly chip down his health bar. It's just a glorified normal fight from the rest of the game. Then the game fast forwards in time to where Ezio hid the apple. It's all rushed and I just think it doesn't make much sense where the rest of the game you have to play through Ezio's memories to get to the next one. I have to admit though, killing Cesare like this felt pretty awesome.
No man can murder me!
Then I leave you in the hands of fate.
It's pretty difficult to find something bad about the entire Ezio trilogy, and his first outing is no different. However, the complaint for most people is that there is no way to replay these amazing handcrafted missions again, whether you want to fly like an eagle over Venice or just assassinate Uberto over and over and over again. You can't, unless you start the game over from scratch. Some of the missions in AC2 are just so fun, and being able to replay them would have been an amazing feature. I think most people would say that the original game in the series' biggest flaw is its repetitive mission design, and I for one completely agree. There are 9 targets and each time you must go to the city they are located in, gather intel on them until you can collect the feather from the bureau, then you can assassinate them. Each final part of the assassination is slightly different, but every other part of gameplay is very similar to the one before. You then return to Marcialf and to your master to have a rank up and get a piece of equipment back. I think a bit of varied mission structure and different tasks could have made this game even better. Maybe broken up the 9 assassinations with something else, like maybe burning some ships, or you know, attacking a castle with a horde of Vikings. No, actually, please don't do that. I think this was an amazing first step for this series before it leapt off the roof to fly and eventually got shot down by Bayek as he needed the feathers to upgrade his bow. Oh yeah. Well, my little flock of internet followers, that's the worst thing about every AC game. If you want to see more, please click on some of the videos on screen now. Flutter down below to subscribe with notifications on so you don't miss any of my future uploads, and I promise there won't be any more terrible bird-related crap in the next video. Now, I've been thinking about this a lot, and the worst thing about my YouTube channel would have to be